Welcome to the Digital Brand Builder Podcast, where we bring you the best growth strategies from the world's experts to help build your business fast. And now, here's your host, Mark Fidelman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Brand Builder Podcast. Joining me today, Victoria Kennedy, and we're going to talk about digital PR. Now, I don't know the difference between PR and digital PR. We're going to ask Victoria that question. Very interested in the answer. I know a little bit about what we're going to talk to Victoria today, but primarily I approach these things with a beginner's mind. So with that, before we jump in, Victoria, can you give us a little bit of your background in 200 words or less?
Yes, I help entrepreneurs become the number one authority in their niches by getting them in top publications and podcasts. And I am qualified to do this because I've done it for myself and my own agency. So I walk the walk and talk the talk, and I'm happy to put people in the spotlight now.
All right. So you're walking the walk, talking the talk. Let's start with what is digital PR?
Yeah. So PR is, think of it like, your personal brand. Think of it like having the most credible source say that you're credible. Imagine having leads come calling you instead of you cold calling leads. That's what PR is. That's the magic of digital PR. Everything is online these days. So if you don't have an online footprint, you're behind the times. It's all about visibility these days, being seen, being in the right places where your audience is hanging out. That's the power of PR.
Okay. And I think everyone understands that, but is our topic today is like digital PR. So is that just doing it online? It's not old school. How are you defining the difference, or are you defining the difference?
Yeah. Well, in old school, it was all about, billboards and magazines are great. But, if you were to get into Forbes magazine, for example, and I were to Google you because you said you were in Forbes and I can't find that article, guess what? Now you look like a liar. Right? So it's really important to get into the digital magazines more so than it is to get into the print, because with digital, you can back it up. If somebody Googles, Victoria Kennedy Forbes, they're going to see that Forbes article, right? It's very important to make sure if you say you do something, you can back it up, because in this day and age, everything is checkable. You can Google everything. So make sure you have a strong social presence by having that digital media.
Got it. So it's more about being found, and that is important, and it can be shared with social. You can't do that with a physical magazine. So that's really important. Okay, so let's jump into it. What if somebody's looking for public relations and they want to start off by doing it themselves? What do you recommend they do?
Yeah. So if you want to start off by doing it yourself, the very first thing is get a consistent brand online, right? So you want to make sure that your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, there's a consistent message. The biggest thing I see business owners make is, on their Facebook, they'll say, if they even say anything, a lot of times it's just, pictures of their dog, which is great, but we'll get into that in a minute. I should know what you do within 3 seconds of landing on your social page. Right? So if I find you in a great article online and I want to do business with you, and I go to your Facebook and I don't see who you are, what it is that you do, I'm sorry, I'm not giving you my business. And as much as I'd like to say, you can keep your social life distant than your, public persona, you can't. We live in a day and age where everything is online. So you really have to be comfortable with wearing that on your sleeve. So first things first is make sure you have a consistent message across all your socials.
So that's the first thing. And then when you want other people to write about you, which is, increasingly difficult as everyone tries, any little startup, anyone that you can even think of. So how is it that you rise above that noise and get people to write about you?
Yeah, well, there's lots of different ways. One of the ways that you can do right now, if you're listening to this and you're feeling overwhelmed, how do I get into these top publications? Start small. Everybody knows at least 5 people in the media on your friends list right now. I guarantee it. On your Facebook, on your Instagram, there is at least 5 people who work in the media, be it they have a podcast, they have their own blog, maybe they're an editor or a contributor to a small publication. That's where you start. Make a post. Say, hey, I'm an expert in digital marketing and I'd love to share my value. Who here has a podcast I could be on? Who here has a platform, a blog that I could write for? You're going to get people because the world is so hungry for good content, for value. And if you're the one providing the value, those opportunities will find you and they're already within your inner circle. You just need to ask and look.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's the beginning. And then as you're looking for more attention, like in the bigger public, the tier 2s, tier 3 publications, what advice do you have there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of people, when they come to me, they think, oh, press is getting in Forbes and Entrepreneur, right? And no, that's not what really press is. Press is a story that you tell your audience, right? It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And that's what Jeff Bezos said. And he should know, right? It's the most powerful story you can tell. How do you want people to talk about you? It's more than just one article in a big top tier publication, right? It starts small. Have your audience follow you on this journey. Have them see you in your local paper. Like, kudos to you, got in your local paper. Hey, now you're on a bigger podcast. Hey, now you're in an industry specific magazine. Now you're on Forbes. Wow, I saw your entire journey to get there. It's the story that you're telling your audience, that you're having them follow along with you. Now they see you as an authority. It's more than the publication, it's the story behind it.
Got it. Okay. And then creating a story, because I'm going to walk you down this path. So creating this story, how do you come up with a solid, interesting story that appeals to your target audience?
Absolutely. Well, that's why I'm good at my job. A lot of people come to me and they'll say two things. One, they'll say, oh, my story is the most interesting thing you've ever heard, Victoria. And then they tell me their story and I'm like, that's not quite it. Tell me more. And I hear everything and I think, that's it. That thing you didn't want to tell anybody about, that bankruptcy or that divorce or that, horrible childhood, that's what makes you human. That's your story. Everybody has one. And then I get the other people who are like, oh, I don't have a story at all. I don't have a story. I'm not interesting. I'm not good enough to be in the press. And then we start talking and I realize, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're incredible. Why haven't you told this story? Why haven't you allowed yourself to shine in this way? Sometimes it takes somebody else like a publicist to actually look at you from the outside and say, hey, this is what makes you shine. This is what makes you you. And sometimes we can't even see it ourselves.
I think most of the time you can't because, like you said, what you think is not interesting is interesting to everybody else. And it doesn't always work that way. But what I tell people to do is have somebody else interview you that doesn't know you. And it's kind of a mock interview and they pull some things out of you. If they're mildly talented, they should be able to do that. And then you look at the interview and then you say, okay, what if my life or my business, in starting my business, or maybe I've been in business for a long time, my business itself were a book, what would be the beginning, the middle, the end, and would there be heroes and villains and all that kind of stuff, and try to piece it together that way. Now, that's still not easy to do. And what I do with my clients is I bring in professionals because they get it right away. But if you're trying to do this on your own, it's just recognize that you're going to have to learn some storytelling skills.
Yeah, no, I love what you said, Mark. Like, have a friend, have somebody from the outside interview you. Stuff is going to come up that you don't even know you have within you. And that's the story. Okay.
So let's say you get the story down. You've got a few people that are talking about you. You have a consistent message on social and everywhere else. Tell me how you get into those tier 2s. Are you putting together lists? Are you a Dream 100 list is what I do with the tier 1s. And then,
let me talk about that.
Yeah.
For sure. So a lot of my clients don't even know. So I'll ask them, what do you think press is? And they're like, well, they think it's top tier. They think it's Inc. magazine and TechCrunch. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what's your niche actually? Coaches. Okay. Coaches aren't reading TechCrunch. Sorry to break it to you. That's not where you need to be. Maybe your ego thinks you do, but that's not. What are the publications they're reading? What do they care about? For example, I have a lot of clients in the mortgage space, mortgage marketers. What we're doing is figuring out who is my client? What is your ideal client avatar? And where are they hanging out? What are they reading online? What are they listening to? What podcasts are they listening to? Finding that media list of all the places we need to pitch. It's not what you think. It's not what's in your your ego's best interest, right? It would be really cool to tell your mom you're featured in Forbes, right? But if your audience is dog groomers, if your audience is stay-at-home moms, or if your audience is, med spas, they're not maybe necessarily reading Forbes magazine. So maybe that's not in the best interest for you. Be where your client is at. Be in beauty magazines, be in lifestyle magazines, be where they care about, because that's how you make an ROI. And that's how you're seen as an industry leader to your specific audience. Because at the end of the day, that's what press is about being the number one authority in your niche.
So how do you find out who your audience is? What do you recommend they do?
Yeah. So honestly, Google. It's so easy. Google, if you're in the mortgage space, mortgage publications, mortgage podcasts, mortgage magazines, mortgage news, mortgage TV stations. A quick Google search will find hundreds of places where you can start immediately pitching to. Whatever your niche is, I guarantee there is a specific audience that is following blogs, newspapers, and magazines about just that.
Okay, so you find your audience, which is not as easy as you think, but let's say you do the Google technique. You can also do surveys to your current audience if you've got an audience. Or you could stalk your competitors to see what types of people are responding to your competitors. So you get all that, you create these personas. And then with the personas, now you know where your audience is getting their information. So then you start your reach out campaign. Is this just sheer email and phone calls? Is it just email? How do you reach out to these people, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube channel, or traditional press? How do you do that well?
That is the $1 million question, isn't it? Right? The pitching, the art of pitching. It's not, spoiler alert. I wish I could tell you it's as easy as finding the emails and sending out a generic pitch, but that doesn't work. There is so much competition these days because there's so few media outlets and there's so many people who want to be published. You have to find a way to stand out from everyone else. And this is going to come back to what we talked about. The first thing we do is we set up who you are. What's your brand story? Right? How is it unique from your competitors? How is it unique from everyone else in your industry? Once we have that, now we've done the research of the media. Now we pitch from that unique brand point of view, right? Hopefully at this point, you've already been in some publications so we can talk to them about that. And now here is the secret sauce. Don't make it about you. Make it about what's in the best interest for them and their audience, right? Say, hey, Joe, editor at, National Mortgage News or, The Greatest Magazine. I saw that you just wrote an article about lifestyle and about how 5 tips you need to start a side hustle. I loved it because I actually help people do a side hustle of coaching, online coaching. And I have a great story idea that would be great for your audience. 5 things you need to know to start your own coaching business. And you listed the bullet points. Just let me know if it would be a great fit for you. Thank you so much. Keep it brief, keep it about them and how it would benefit their audience, right? That's how you stand out.
You remind me of something that works really well. And that is going on and researching what reporters have talked about your competitors and then proposing a follow-up story or proposing a different angle or proposing just the opposite of what your competitors say. That's worked for me in the past. It's a lot of work. I'd almost hire somebody that's mildly competent to do that work for you because
or really confident, like, our agency.
Right. Well, you could do that, but I don't know what your average hourly rate is. I'm sure it's a lot. It's pretty high, but and maybe not. But what I found is, I would rather spend $50 an hour finding somebody, that is halfway knowledgeable about your business and very knowledgeable about deciphering articles that reporters have written about your competition, and then putting that information into a digestible format that you can use to email those reporters with some kind of response or follow-up or what have you. The goal I have found is to become these reporters' number one source for any types of information or quotes. And if you can get to that level of trust, you're halfway home. But you're the expert, not me. So
yeah, well, definitely. And being the expert, I would say, definitely if you don't have the money and you want to start small, absolutely, Mark. Everything you're saying, doing it, cutting your own teeth, doing it your own way, that's how I learned, so absolutely kudos to you. But if you are really doing well in your agency or doing well in your business, you're going to want to be with someone who knows what they're doing and who has connections at those publications or who knows how to get them, right? So you're going to want to work with someone who's an expert in the field because you're a busy business owner at that point. You don't have time to learn and, send 200 emails and hope for a positive response and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, if they could afford a PR agency, absolutely. But if they're doing it themselves, and my audience is more, mid to larger companies, some entrepreneurs are on here. The mid and larger should absolutely either bring it in-house or hire a firm like yours to do it, because it is a lot of work. The problem I find is, in one of the tests I do, is there's a lot of PR companies that claim to be industry experts. And then, so my test is, if I had to get a story out tomorrow, how many contacts do you have in my industry that would actually put it out there? And that's a very low number, even if you're super well connected, just because of timing issues. But, who is it that personally in my industry that if I had to get something out there would do it? And yeah. I could speak for myself. There's at least 10 reporters I can go to tomorrow and get something pretty much published within 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And so if I'm dealing with a PR agency, I want them to have way more than me. And that to me is an important qualification question.
Absolutely. I think the better question is, who is willing to go that extra mile for you? I always tell my clients, if it's a brand new niche that we've never worked in before, and they say, Victoria, how can you say you're going to find publications in my niche? I always say, it's like going to a dressmaker. It's your wedding day and you want the most beautiful wedding dress. And you tell the dressmaker, you can't make my dress because it's going to be red and it's going to have, wings out of it and it's going to be short, but it's going to have a long tail. And you've never made a dress like this. So I'm telling you, you're just not going to be able to make my wedding dress. And the dressmaker tells you, but I have the pattern. I can make you any dress. I know how this works and I know how to get it done. So that's what I say for people in new niches. Find a PR agency that maybe if they've never worked in your niche, they know how to, because a lot of PR agencies, and I'll just be honest with you, they'll say, oh yeah, we have all these connections, but just because they have those connections does not mean they're going to use them on you. Right. So it's really important that you work with someone boutique who has your best interest in mind and that's going to fight for you for these stories and these placements.
Good. Okay. So anything that you've noticed lately that gets the attention of reporters or journalists or even influencers in the space that have a very powerful podcast or YouTube channel that you've noticed has worked recently? Any tips or tricks?
Yeah. So the best thing that I can give you is whatever is happening in the news, find a way to comment on it that complements who you are and what it is you do. Right? If there is, a mental health crisis in the news that just hits the news, find a way to say, hey, there's a mental health crisis and I'm actually helping people overcome that with my coaching business. Here are the 3 steps that I have, to get better mental health or to do better in the workplace or to get through your workday and to thrive. Now journalists want to know and want to hear about that because they're searching on Twitter. They're like Googling like crazy, mental health, because that's what's in the news right now. Whatever it is, find a way to spin it and have your own unique take on it. And that is honestly a guaranteed surefire way to get picked up by the media.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, and again, I go back to building relationships with these people so you become the go-to. You're in when they start emailing you and not the other way around. And I've gotten to that position with, not so much anymore, but with marketing. Anytime somebody wanted a marketing quote, they would come to me. And that was back when I was out there a lot more than I am now. But you can get there within your industry if you stay consistent and you stay polite and you kind of stalk the reporters that you like the most on social media. They start seeing you commenting on other stuff or promoting their stuff.
Well, I'll give you a trick about that. That's very helpful. So anytime we are going to pitch some big publications and some big editors that we really want to get our clients in, we will follow, retweet, heart them for a week on Twitter before we even send a pitch.
Wow.
So that's a little secret tip. Of course it takes extra work and due diligence, but now they know you. Now they see that you actually care about them as journalists, and now they're going to respond to your pitch.
Yeah. I love it. Now, how often do you have to do that? I mean, is this an everyday thing? I mean, are you really like hardcore stalking them? Or
no. So, we have a lot of connections, obviously. We're a PR company. So, but if we're in a new niche, or if we're really trying to get a big placement for one of our clients, or, a specific industry specific that we're really trying to crack for a client, we'll definitely do our due diligence before we pitch that client.
Okay. All right, good. Is there anything else before you wrap things up? And I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. Is there anything else that's important for people to know?
Yeah, I would just like to end with, because of the pandemic, everything is online now. Everything we've seen can be taken away overnight. People have lost their businesses overnight. People have lost their livelihoods. People have lost a lot of things because of the pandemic. But here's one thing that no one can take away from you: the power of your personal brand. If you build that up, no pandemic, no matter what happens, you can start a new business tomorrow and people will follow you because they trust you and your brand. So if anything I can tell you to do, build up the credibility in yourself, and that will pay for itself times a million.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I want people to know how to get a hold of you. So where can they find you online?
Absolutely. So you can check out victoriouspr.com, but honestly, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. I'm Victoria Kennedy. I'm a real person. So, shoot me a message, add me as a friend, say, hey, I heard you on Mark's podcast. I loved it. I had a question, whatever it is, I'm here to help. And I'd love to hear from you.
Good. You can also find her on Twitter at GoVictoriaK.
Yep.
And this will be in the show notes. And lastly, I just want to thank you, Victoria, for keeping it short, succinct, but very valuable content. I couldn't agree with you more. The right way to do this is to hire a firm like yours. You just have to make sure that you've got a good person in your corner, because I've seen so many companies been taken advantage of in PR. So with that, Victoria, I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have you back on for maybe a advanced course.
Hey, let's do it. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.